What's up, guys? We are finally back for a June fishing report for Lake Murray. I'm Captain Chris Blanchett, the largemouth bass guide here on Lake Murray. That's Captain Chip Bragg. He is from Sea and Stripes Guide Service for striper and also multi-species as well. Man, super excited to finally get back to doing these. We've unfortunately had a little bit of a hiatus for the last 2 or 3 months. Well, I guess 2 months. This is going to be the third month. Man, just been so busy, and we had some technical issues. We technically did shoot one in April. I'm not going to say whose fault it was. It was mine, 100% mine. For, we had some issues with the audio and then everything recording and capturing as it should. So I went to put the video together, and I was like, oh, man, we just wasted 30 minutes of putting stuff together. But we're back today, and that's what I'm super excited about. This is all powered by Digital Marketing Systems, a great company that works with, website SEO and optimization, also JC's Outdoors, man. Support your local companies. But without further ado, let's jump right into it. Chip, I know you've been out on the water a lot. I just got back from Oklahoma not long ago, but I did have a trip on Murray yesterday, so I've been out there, and then before I was, out there a good bit as well. Tell me a little bit about the water, and then I'll tell you what I've seen as well.
Well, so I actually took a little break as well. I took off the end of May.
Oh, that's right.
Went on a little family vacation, and so I rolled back in here Sunday, whatever, May 31st, and then I went out June 1st. So I've been gone for 9 days, and in those 9 days, most people who are watching this video knows what happened in those 9 days. We went from 3 to 4 foot down to full pool.
Yeah.
So of course, that visibility that we had, that was like us, it was crazy, like 10 plus foot deep visibility. It's not that much anymore, which does help a little bit. But water temps were really climbing at the end of May, and then the rain came. I come back in town, and doggone water temps were actually lower, or where they were before the heavy the heat we had at the end of May there. So right now the water temps they've actually come up this week. We're seeing like 80, 81 now at the beginning of the mornings, whereas earlier in the week it was 77, 78. So we're starting to see a couple ticks up, which for the striper, that'll be good for us. We're looking for them to group up. But overall, we're starting to see a little bit of that floating stringy grass that we usually see at the end of May. I'm starting to see big pods of it, especially up in the Valentine area.
Yeah.
So, be on the lookout for that stuff if some people are still trolling and stuff like that. So got some floating grass out there. Water temp, like I said, low 80s. I say low. It's 78 to 81 is where we're looking at. But overall, water quality is good. Water clarity is good. It's shaping up to be a good summer, hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, same thing I've seen as well. I mean, water has come up. It was low way longer than it normally is. Obviously, we all know that. We had a ton of rain, and it jumped up quick, like probably one of the quickest, times it's influxed that I've seen in a while. And the water came up really high. That changed fishing a little bit.
Yep.
Definitely water clarity. There were certain creeks, I would say, that were a lot murkier than others. Some of them stayed relatively clean. Other ones definitely had some, dinginess to them beyond what Lake Murray Clear normally looks like. Water temperature has been all over the place. I feel like that's been the only consistency this entire spring, has been how inconsistent the water temperature has been based off of the temperatures we've been getting. 78 to 82, 83, you get a really warm day. It might jump up a little bit more, but that pretty much exactly what you said, man. That's what I'm seeing, being up there maybe a little bit shallower than you. And so that's what we got. I think what's our lake level right now? It's got to be over 358, right?
Or it's right there at it. I don't ever check stuff like that. When I ride on the Dreer, I look at my little shoal on the left, and I can usually tell if it's down or up a little bit on how much it's showing. But yeah, it should be right around 357, 358, somewhere around in that. So basically, we're at full pool.
Yeah.
They'll keep it probably there. And honestly, I don't think they even planned on letting it get that high if we didn't have all that rain we had that week. I think they had planned to keep it at probably 355 this year. But they can't just go dumping it and I also believe that gives them a little threshold throughout the summer to kind of keep their dissolved oxygen and water flow through the lower salida that they're required to keep.
Right, for the trout and all. Completely get that. So with that, we'll kind of start off. I'll just run through some bass stuff real quick, then I'll turn it over to Chip. He can do striper and multi-species. The bass, man, just do a super quick recap of the spring. Obviously they were offshore, then they came in, they did their spawning, then they jumped on the blueback herring spawn. We did have a really hot day, and something that I'm starting to notice is when we get that really hot, those fish actually kind of pull off and quit spawning a little bit when that water temperature gets super hot. But that being said, we did get a little bit lower temperatures, and those fish moved right back up. And we saw that we had a big tournament come through, the Bassmaster Elite Series. Very indicative of what I just said with what they did to catch their fish. I mean, you saw some of them jumping up from fishing a community point, like super shallow herring spawn point, to throwing a caffeine shad or something like that offshore in like 20 feet of water. So, I mean, those fish were incredibly scattered out. Now, I do feel now, I mean, obviously, as we've had a little bit more consistency as far as the temperature, to a degree at least, those fish have finally committed to going offshore. Not to say you can't find a couple schools of fish up really shallow on points, as you typically can in early June, but the vast majority of them are really starting to pull off of the points and humps. And being those really large schools. There's also fish up shallow too. I mean, we've got a lot of brim up there shallow, so don't sleep on that bite either. But typical players always. I did kind of like a preview for the All-American tournament that came through for Major League Fishing, and I would say a lot of the stuff is still the same, and that's going to be your caffeine shad, which is like a soft jerk bait. There's different colors. Everyone likes that siren color, which is like a chartreuse color. Don't be scared to throw a natural color. I mean, if you've gone on guide trips with me, I throw a lot of natural colored flukes as well. I feel like that might be something where the fish, it's easier to trick them a little bit because they see that and, it looks identical to the herring that they're chasing. Also a topwater. Always have a topwater ready. If I can give you any advice, like your tip of the week, and some of you guys do this a lot, but not everybody does, is when you get to your spot to start fishing, lay your rods out that you intend to fish with, okay? Before you even make a cast, don't just jump up there and start casting, all right? Like, get your top water rod, unhook it, have it on the side of the deck, ready to roll, because those fish are just going to come up, and your bite windows, it seems like this year when they come up in school, are very small, and you really got to capitalize on those, especially this time of the year, because it's not like you're getting a million opportunities a day out there when they're schooling. So definitely be prepared. Have your Strike King Sexy Dog. I like the Sexy Dog Junior Chrome. That's always a staple in my boat, and it produces a lot of fish. And you've seen the pictures that I posted on our page here. There's been huge ones eating it. So that would be what I'm seeing as far as the largemouth fishing. That'll stay pretty consistent, I'd say, for the next few weeks. Once we get into July, changes up a little bit. Those bite windows become incredibly important. The last thing I've got for you is some of the bite windows that I've been seeing now. Is it seems like right now, first thing in the morning, small bite window, and then there's a little bit of a lull, and then it seems like around like 10 o'clock maybe. 10 to like 1 has been super productive, I would say. So, it's like it's almost like you have that to look forward to. Like when I'm running one of my trips, it's like, okay, let's catch what we can catch in the morning. And then, it's going to really turn on once those fish really get to position and set up. So that's what I've been seeing for bass. Chip, what have you been seeing for striper and multi? Have you been doing any multi-speed? I know you've done some shell cracker stuff as well.
It's getting to the end of the year, end of the season for all my other stuff. From going here forward all the way through till about October, I'm straight striper. This is everything else the water gets so hot and everything. We have a little bit of bycatch, but I'll run through a few little species here before I got a pretty in depth with the striper because that's kind of what we're doing right now. But I haven't really messed with the perch, but I did catch some on accident and actually found a bunch last Friday. They were in the backs of the creeks. And when I say back of the creeks, I'm as far as I could go and still be in like 20, 25 foot of water. And they were some jumbos. I mean, we're talking 14, 15-inch perch that are a pound and a half plus. And I don't know if they were spawning or getting ready to or what, but they look pretty healthy, big bellies. So check the backs of these ditches, 20, 25 foot of water. Right now, I don't know much longer they'll be back there. Then I'm sure they'll start moving out. But that's your perch. If you want some cats, no one really messes with those big blues this time of year. If everybody's wanting cats, it's all channels. Channels are shallow right now. We're talking, man, 5 to 15 foot of water. If you can get close to some grass, that's always when you're catfishing shallow, you want to be close to the grass, but you don't want to be in the grass because, it's just, it gets all over your lines. So it's a little tough. I've seen a few people at the landing been running trout lines, and they're saying the same thing, 5 to 15 foot of water. Get up shallow around the islands on the points. That'll be where you want to catch your channel catch right now. The crappie. So it's kind of weird with the crappie. So I see them occasionally here and there, but I haven't went and looked. It'll be interesting to see what the rise in the water level has done. So when the water was down, we were down in that 353 area, stuff like that. They were deep. They were on like 30-foot brush. So what was happening was typically when they come off that spawn, they usually go back out to that shallow brush, that 10, 15-foot stuff. Well, that 10, 15-foot brush was now, 6 foot, 8 foot, 12 foot deep. And so they went to the next stage of brush. So now that the water is back up, I haven't looked. Are they still on the 30, which would now be like 33, 35-foot brush, or did they transition back up to the normal brush? Either way, they'll be on brush. There's some fish on some bridges as well, but the crappie, they're going to be on that deep brush right now. Mm-hmm. Now the striper, man, I tell you what, it's been they've given me some headaches there at first. When I first came back, took me a few hours to kind of really figure out what they wanted.
Took you.
And this happens.
Just a couple hours. That's all it takes, right?
Yeah. This is, I've seen it happen several times. Last time I think it happened might have been Helene with the hurricanes, so because they had already started dropping the water, then it got the big influx of water and the water levels shoot up. Anytime we have a drastic increase in water inflow, and the water level rises, it scatters fish. And they were, starting to really group up there at the end of May. And then when that water came up and I come back into town, they were scattered. You couldn't hardly find a group of them anywhere. If you found a group of 15, 20 fish, that was equivalent of finding a group of 100 to 200 fish. They just aren't really grouped up right now. That's slowly changing. This is whatever, I don't know what today's date is. What is it? 9th. Tuesday.
Yeah. Tuesday.
Yeah. But they're starting to group up as I mentioned earlier. That water temp starts creeping up. As that water temp creeps up, they will start grouping up a little bit better. Last June, 2025 June, they schooled almost every day in June. It was crazy. We were just catching fish after fish after fish. They were schooling up and down from Pintail Point to Shoal to out in the big pool, just everywhere. This year's been completely different. I've only been on schooling fish one time. That was not yesterday, the last Monday. So that'd been June 1st. I got on them schooling then, but since then I ain't really seen any. Now, I have gotten a few reports to people of the last couple of days. If you want to stick around, you stick around out there kind of late in the day. Believe it or not, they're schooling midday, 11 to 1 o'clock, which kind of coincides with what you're saying with the bass.
Yeah.
But we've gotten some reports of some striper. I'm talking like springtime and fall size schools. A couple acres out there schooling at 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Nobody really wants to be out there at that time because it's starting to get so hot. But it may be worth your while to wait around out there for them. Now let's get into actually how I'm catching them. I'm sure some people watched. I put a video out. I didn't know Chris was going to be back in town here, so I went ahead and kind of just threw a little teaser out there just because, there was a lot of people out there struggling, and we try to help everybody out. But so I've been fishing up in creeks. I've done a little bit out there on the open water, but it just doesn't seem to produce like the up in the creeks or the mouth of creeks or anything like that. I'm still liking to be around the grass. If you watch some of my videos from earlier in the week, these fish are absolutely just stuffed full of crawfish. And I think early in the morning, they're running up on that grass and eating all the crawfish they can. And when I say eating all they can, I'm cutting fish open that it's just they're pouring out of them. I mean, I cleaned one the other day. I didn't even videotape this one, but it had 12. And when I say 12, I'm not talking about little baby ones. I'm talking, they're full size, crawfish. They're probably, they're 5 inches long, probably just big ones. But anyway, so everybody's like, well, we'll just go shallow. Well, I can't really get the fish to eat shallow, even though they're up there feeding shallow. I'm still catching them on herring, but I'm catching them out there in say 35 to 50 foot of water, open water fish that are full of crawfish. So what they're doing is they're going up shallow, they're feeding in that grass, and then they're coming off. And that's when I'm catching them. I'm catching them as they're coming back out. I guess they're eating a herring for dessert after they done ate all their protein. I don't know. But we're catching them on free lines. Literally, I'm taking an ultralight and a little ultralight spinning rod, just putting a herring on it. No weight, no nothing, just casting it. I try to get it 50, 60, 80 feet away from the boat, and you just let it swim. It's a rod you have to pay attention to. I run 4 of them. You can't just let it sit there, for 10 minutes. I'm probably reeling it in every 5 minutes or less. Those herring will swim back to the boat. They'll get in the trolling motor. They'll get tangled up with down rods. They'll get tangled up with each other. But it's a really neat bite. But you got to be patient with them. I've told people, set a timer on your phone. I do it all the time just to keep myself honest. I'll set a 20-minute timer. If you're catching 1 to 2 fish in that 20 minutes, sit tight. Because you'll catch you a nice box of fish that way versus running all over the lake looking and looking and looking. A fish every 20 minutes, so you're looking at 3 fish an hour, but that's if you hit the limits. What's going to happen is you're going to catch 2 or 3 fish in those 3 20-minute windows in an hour. One of them, you're going to hit 2 or 3 fish. Next thing you know, you're averaging, 5 to 6 fish an hour, just over the course of the morning. And, within 3 hours, 4 hours, you got your 18, 20 fish. So that's from a guide perspective. That's how you sit and be patient. Yeah. It's tough sometimes. 'Cause I'm going to tell you, 15 to 20 minutes on a boat with no bite feels like 2 hours.
No, but it seems like every time you say as a guide, you're like, all right, 5 more minutes. Like all my clients, because I always am just like, all right, 5 more minutes, or all right, 3 more minutes, all right, 2 more minutes. And then they'll come up and we'll get a bite or we'll catch one. It's probably the same.
That's
thing,
right,
man. It's like it's like clockwork. That's the best way to trigger a bite is be like, all right, fish, 5 more minutes.
Yep. I think it might have been last year before last. I was setting 20-minute timers, and my customers had picked up on it because we literally we'd catch a fish and my phone would go off. And that happened 2 or 3 times. They said, do you have something on your phone where you catch a fish and the alarm goes off? I said, no, it's a timer. I'm giving myself 20 minutes before I decide if I really want to make a move or not. I said, and these fish keep eating about between 18 and 19 minutes. But overall, I mean, it's if anything I can preach for these guys right now with these stripers, until they get grouped up, you've got to be patient with them. I had a buddy. He said he burned 28 gallons of gas one day last week to chasing stripers, and you burning that much fuel, you're not sitting long enough to catch a fish.
That's an investment at this point, man. Almost $3.50, $4 a gallon for gas.
That's tough. But yeah, so like I said, we're getting back to getting off track here a little bit. But yeah, so creek mouse back in the creeks, ditches and channels. Pay attention to those, even if it's a small ditch. Like let's say you got a long point that comes off from where. Look at your contour map and look on that point. If you have this little it may only be 60 foot of a little inset on the side of a point. Technically, that's a small ditch on that point. And they're sitting in these ditches. I've got a place over there in Ballantyne. I've been fishing late morning, and it's just that. It's actually a long ridge, and top of the ridge is 15 to 20 foot deep. But it's like an arrowhead. Picture an arrowhead. It comes out to a point, and then all the little jagged edges are little tiny ditches, and these fish are sitting in those ditches. And so I'm just spot locking on one of them. I turn a thumper on, and over the next 10, 15 minutes, I can usually kind of get them going. But yeah, so that's kind of where we're at with the striper. Now, I expect in the next couple weeks we should see a downrod bite kind of kick on if you want to do that. This free line bite that I'm on, I did it last June. I didn't quit doing it until the first week of July last year, and I don't expect to stop it until probably July this year. That's just what I'm planning on doing. Now, if my free line bite stops, then I will downrod a little earlier. But with the reports I'm getting of some schooling in the midday, I expect that to kind of come back up towards the morning a little bit as we get into a new moon phase here. Expect to see some schooling. I think we're going to see some schooling here in the next couple of weeks. Even though I told some buddies I thought it was done for the year. Every time you think you got these fish figured out, they'll humble you real quick.
Yes.
So I'm kind of leaving an open door here, saying that they may or may not school in the next couple of weeks. But
I'm going to call it maybe.
Maybe we'll call it a maybe. That's right. But yeah. So yeah, that's my striper part of it. Don't give up on up the lake either. I mean, I picked up some clients this past week up around Plantation Point, and on the way in, it was an afternoon gig. I've seen 3 or 4 fish breaking above the big gap, so there may still be some fish up. I'm not telling you go fish up there, that they're loaded up there, but you don't have to be at the dam right now. You don't have to be, mid-lake. I think you can still go up there around Buffalo, Plantation, Macedonia. I think you can catch some fish. Some of my clients that live way at the top of the lake, they hate the summertime because they got to drive all the way down the lake. It might be worth a little pit stop around the Little Gap, Hollow Creek, Bear Creek. You're okay there. Or you can come on down to the big pool. There's fish down there. There's still herring down there. I don't know if it's late spawners or what it is, but I picked up last week at the dam, and literally there was a school of herring probably, I don't know, it was probably 20 yards by 10 yards wide running up and down the bank. And, so there's herring still down there on the banks. But it's getting ready to be real good for all the striper heroes that like to go catch stripers, because they feed them pretty good right now, and it's only going to get better for the next couple of weeks.
So, Chip, tell me a little bit about safety. We've got a lot going on out there. Summertime, you've got tubers, jet skiers, you've got a lot of boat traffic. Just give me some generalized, quick 2 or 3 tips as far as boat safety and, obviously all the traffic we got out on the water right now.
Yeah, I always try to talk about a little bit of that, whether it be cold weather or, now that we're getting to this time of year when it's busy season. But, I just want everybody to pay attention to where we're having our fun at sometimes is these high traffic areas, the Big Gap, Little Gap, the tip of shoal, man. The tip of shoal is crazy in the summertime. And I can't tell you how many times I'll go out there and I'll look around and somebody's got a kid. They're tubing in the most high traffic areas. Another place is going into the Hilton boat ramp, mouth of Johns Creek.
Yeah, for sure.
I come in there yesterday and there's a boat and they're turning circles literally in the mouth of, going back to the Hilton ramp. And kid comes off, and if people don't see those people come off the tube, so and I'm not saying anything bad about the people who are tubing, but I want everybody to keep your eyes open. If you're in these high traffic areas, look around. Just pay attention to it, and also the guys that are getting out there early, nav lights. Honestly, the last 2 days. And I'm making a point of it now to point it out to my customers. The last 2 days, 6 boats, no nav lights. And pay attention, guys. You got to have those lights on 30 minutes. Was it 30 minutes after official sunrise? I think is what the time is. So even if you think you can see because it's daylight, believe it or not, man, them boats are a lot harder to see than you think they are. So put your nav lights on, man. Keep them on till, 7:30 or something like that. They can kick them off. It ain't hurting nothing. And it may save your life. Somebody come up here and hit you one day. So that's my piece on safety this time, guys.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. Just got to be super aware. You've got so many boats, so many different people with a bunch of different experience level when they're driving boats. So always be more of, like, I would say, a defensive driver. I know we talk about that sometimes whenever we're talking about like vehicles.
That's
right. But definitely when you're boating, because you just don't know what that other person's experience level is, how comfortable they are with their vessel. Make sure you understand the rules of the road. But in most cases, a lot of people have taken boating safety courses, which is something that I strongly recommend. I think that's something that's great for people to do. So just make sure you adhere to that. Be safe. Know that, getting to your spot just a couple minutes earlier really isn't going to make that much of a difference when you're compared to like potentially putting your life or someone else's life in risk. So just be super careful and aware of what's going on out there. Another thing to talk about real quick, I know we've been talking about it for a while, and I think I have a good, clear, concise plan for moving forward. Is this, kind of advanced angler program that we're looking at. It's kind of like these fishing reports, but just super in depth, way more, in tune to the water, areas of the lake that we're seeing stuff, more day to day versus like month to month type of fishing reports that are super in depth that's more for your anglers that are looking to have like a leg up on people that just go out once every couple of weeks. It looks like August is going to kind of be that time frame. We finally have the season kind of winding down a little bit from the tournament side for me, so I'm able to commit a good bit of time to getting that off the ground. So stay tuned for that. Looking like August, couple months, we'll be up and running. Hopefully we'll have all the bugs worked out throughout the rest of this year, and then come early next season, we'll be ready to roll. We always end with a Bible verse. This week we're doing Colossians 3:12. I always put it on the screen, but I don't always tell you what it means or how I interpret it. I do that because I want you to pick up the Bible, go read, get in the Word, let God kind of speak to you. That's a great Bible verse, definitely is applicable to everybody's life. So take a minute, just do that, put God first in your life, and know that you'll never regret that. And then last thing, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and also make sure you follow our personal, our Facebook pages. You got Seeing Stripes, and then, my Chris Blanchett Bass Fishing page. Because what we're going to start doing is we're going to start putting these videos out a week beforehand only on our pages. So you're not going to know it's out unless you're either A, subscribed to the YouTube channel, or B, subscribe and followers to both of our personal, or I guess our business pages, you could say, per se. So make sure you do that. We're going to have the links below. And then also just tell us what's the biggest bass or what's the biggest striper you've caught this year. Drop that in the comment section below. We definitely want to see, see if we've got any of our followers who's caught a bigger than a 7-pound largemouth or bigger than an 11-pound striper. So if you've done that, comment below with your biggest of the year. And with that, we're going to end the video. We're looking forward to next month, and y'all stay safe out there. Let's go!